Introduced late in the Clone Wars, the Victory class of Star Destroyers would serve as the flagships for the fleets of the late Republic and early Galactic Empire, bridging the transition between the two governments, and then enjoying a long life as a second-line fleet unit once the later Imperial class entered service in numbers. Built to serve as a gunnery-focused battleship to act in massed fleet actions, the Victory class was impressively armed for its size. Boasting a primary battery of 10 quadruple turbo laser turrets, backed up by 40 twin turbo laser batteries and 100 flak guns. This significant gun armament was in turn supported by large numbers of concussion missile launchers, which provided the ship with a vicious alpha strike capacity and was intended to give the vessels some ability to deal with heavy orbital fortifications and Star Dreadnought-classed vessels in combat. Finally, the ship held a modest complement of starfighters, initially consisting of 2 squadrons of fighters and 1 bomber squadron, though in Imperial service, with TIE Series fighters the Victory could accommodate 3 squadrons of fighters, a squadron of bombers, and a scouting squadron. Victory-class ships were designed with a crew of 10,000 officers and men in mind, with the capacity to also carry 2,400 Imperial Army troopers and some light equipment for them as well, in addition to significant landing ships to deploy their ground forces in a rapid strike. The class was 900 meters long, 500 meters wide, and 230 meters tall, with a Class II hyperdrive powering the ship through faster-than-light travel. By the time that the Clone Wars broke out with the First Battle of Geonosis, the galaxy had been in the grips of something of a revolution in naval doctrine, with the emergence of several new and novel technologies in recent decades coming to the fore. This revolution had led to radical change in how warships were produced, coinciding for the first time in 1,000 years with there being cause for building major warships, with new compact snub fighters and fighter bombers having supplanted traditional turbo laser-focused designs. The assumption being that these new fighters would be able to strike at targets at longer range, and with greater precision than conventional ship-mounted guns. This new thinking was very much typified by the Venator-class Star Destroyer, which entered service with the Republic fleet in the early months following Geonosis. The Venator possessed a massive hangar which took up most of the ship's forward half, capable of carrying hundreds of fighters, bombers, and scouts of multiple types, as well as shuttles and landing vehicles to allow the ship to quickly deploy her embarked troops to a planet's surface or orbital station. And while this class did still possess an impressive gun armament, it would be the fighters and ground troops that were the primary means by which she dealt with opponents. While the Venator was a very modern ship at the start of the Clone Wars, as the conflict wore on, it was found that her performance in combat, as well as the performance of many other carrier-type capital ships in the Republic and Confederate inventories, was less than had been initially desired, with her starfighter wings often taking shockingly high losses in their attacks at the hands of separatist droid fighters which intercepted them well out of range of their targets, as well as taking fire from the new, well-coordinated flak batteries mounted aboard ships for close defense as the war dragged on in ever larger numbers. By the war's middle year, the loss rate for mass starfighter attacks had grown so great that Republic commanders began employing the guns of their Venator-class ships more and more, getting in close to the enemy to employ their gun batteries in preference of their starfighters. While this shift in tactics was successful, the return to traditional broadside gunnery engagements was not something the Venator was particularly suited to, and so the Republic Admiralty ordered the development of a new generation of gun-focused battleships which had the shielding and heavy armor to allow them to get in close and brawl with their enemies for prolonged periods. Here enters Rendili Stardrive. One of the Republic's largest military contractors, Rendili had felt slighted when Kuat's Venator had been selected over their own offerings to form the backbone of the Republic's new navy. And in fact, Rendili had, under their Victor initiative, already been designing a next-generation capital ship class, so it was well suited to answering the call for this new order. Rendili would make rapid progress over the next few months, quickly producing a series of prototypes, with experts from Kuwait being brought in at stages to help with the integration of several technologies developed by their competitor for the Venator program. The Victory Initiative was begun even before the First Battle of Geonosis, as war clouds were gathering and most systems and sectors which could were busily arming themselves in expectation of needing to defend themselves. In this environment, Rendili had sought to build upon the success of their widely adopted Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser with a more modern capital ship to be bought by these rapidly arming systems and sector defense forces. Rendili had watched with interest the growing power of starfighters, and they would even produce several of their own large carrier-focused ship classes. However, with large contracts for dreadnoughts and their subsidiary Rothana Heavy Engineering being occupied, this being supplying the still-secret Camino and Clone Army, Rendili just didn't have the manpower to spare to develop a class to compete with the Venator, meaning they had to essentially skip this generation. This would allow Rendili to begin thinking, however, about what the next evolution in the capital ship would be, and their design teams, led by Walex Blissex, would conclude that a return to gun-dominant designs made sense, based upon the emergence of effective anti-starfighter light guns, and they would begin design work on what would become the Victory class. Thus, when the Republic submitted their initial design brief, much to the shock of Kuwait, Rendili was able to submit a largely finished and mature design which rather effectively outmatched the improved Venator proposed by Kuwait. Further alarm was taken when Rendili boasted that they could begin producing their offering within 3 months of being approved. Although Kuwait would lose the bid for the new class to Rendili because of these and several additional factors, the Kuwaiti would still manage to profit from the program, with their vast shipyards being ordered to produce many of these designs by direct order of the Chancellor's office, an order which required Rendili to hand over many trade secrets and techniques to Kuwait to allow them to build their design. This decision was ultimately costing Rendili dearly, and would be the direct predecessor to the nationalization of the military-industrial complex under the Empire. True to their word, however, Rendili would begin construction of Victory-class prototypes mere months after the contract for the ships was sighted, no doubt hoping that by making such rapid progress they could muscle out Kuwait in the long run and secure yet more contracts in the future. Although no production Victory would see service until after the conclusion of the Clone Wars and the declaration of the New Order by Emperor Palpatine, several pre-production and prototype hulls would be called into action 6 months before the end of the war by the Republic to defend against a separatist fleet comprised of Bulwark-class battlecruisers, which had broken through the Republic blockade of the Techno-Union-held Thoros system. These ships generally proving to be up to the task of engaging enemy fleets in close action, despite their non-production nature, and causing the Republic to order many more ships of the class in the aftermath of the campaign's success. As mentioned, though, by the time the first official production Victory-class Star Destroyers were entering service, the Galactic Republic had been reorganized into Palpatine's Galactic Empire, and the Victory class would quickly come to fill the role, albeit briefly, of the backbone of the new Imperial Navy, supplanting the earlier Venator-class Star Destroyers. This success and prominence would prove to be short-lived, as the new Imperial Navy began development quickly of a new class of massive ships to fill the role of primary battleship, the Imperial line of Star Destroyers, with the first of these ships entering service just a few years into the reign of the Empire, though prototypes had entered service even as the Victory began to enter service. So by the point the Imperial class made its official large-scale debut, significant numbers of Victory-class ships had already been built, with construction of the class continuing even after the arrival of the Imperial class in small numbers, as the Victory was held in favor by several high-placed officers in the new Navy, who considered the trimmed-down, more efficient design superior to the, in their eyes, somewhat bloated Imperial class. Victory-class ships would serve in prominent roles throughout the reign of the Galactic Empire, with many in the Navy appreciating the ship's high combat value and much reduced operational costs versus newer designs. These traits giving the ships which survived the fall of the Empire new life among the many warlords which emerged following Palpatine's death at Endor, with many of the better-off warlords who possessed the capacity to build new ships for themselves, selecting the older Victory over the superior in capability but much more expensive and difficult to operate Imperial line. Among these warlords, and in the inventory of the New Republic, the Victory-class Star Destroyer would continue in service for decades, continuing on as a popular and quite capable unit for even the twilight years of its active service life, before languishing in scrapyards and reserve fleets throughout the galaxy. 2 major and 3 sub-variants of the Victory were produced, with the initial run of ships known as the Victory 1 class. These designs featured slower, less powerful sublight engines, but a faster hyperdrive than the Victory 2 class, which possessed faster sublight speed but slower hyperspace engines, as well as massed batteries of missile launchers to further improve its close-quarters combat capabilities. Aside from these 2 numerically significant runs, the Victory 3 and 4 classes were built in limited numbers, with the Victory 3 being those ships produced by the Empire following the Battle of Yavin, while the Victory 4 was an upgrade program undertaken by the New Republic for ships of the class they captured. There also existed the Victory 5 class, a major reworking of the Victory space frame, produced in small numbers by the Kingdom of the Tion in former Imperial shipyards in its territory, shortly before the Battle of Yavin. These ships featured a reduced command head, new reactors, rearranged main batteries, larger hangars, and longer range. Though less than 50 ships of this very rare subclass were ever produced, and no known ships were ever refit to this standard in Taiwanese or elsewhere's service. Representing both the pinnacle of Old Republic capital ship construction, as well as the origin point for Imperial design, the Victory-class Star Destroyers would enjoy a long service. Continually popular Star Destroyers, being found to have struck a very good balance between its combat capabilities as well as ease of operation, construction, and economy, sitting ironically right between the complex and inefficient Venator and the complex, expensive, but highly capable Imperial class. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, feel free to do that thumbs up and commenting, subscribe. What's James May say? Like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, you can do those things. Sam Tucker from Apple does his subscribe today. I'm not going to do those things because they've done their own. Instead, I'm just going to say do what better YouTubers than me are always telling you to do, and do those things. Also, if you like the artwork from this video, I actually have it on the channel's Patreon, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's completely free. So, excuse me. Yeah, you can click on the link below, go over to the Patreon, you can get those pictures, use them for whatever you want. Yeah, I mean, they're just out there. I like making them. I like making videos, so I kind of do both. But yeah, you definitely can, and Patreon is a good way to get videos early as well, should you want. Anyway, yeah, so in conclusion, thank you very much for watching. If you watch this far, you get a brownie point. I'm going to have to come up with something to do with these brownie points, because some subscribers are racking up significant numbers of brownie points. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe if we hit 3,000 subs, we'll do a giveaway, and whoever can prove they have the most brownie points, but then I'd have to somehow find a way to prove that. Anyway, yeah, so definitely, let me know if you got a brownie point. It might be useful in the future, I don't know. You might have also heard a cat in the background. There was definitely a cat. She's gone now, but there was. And she's not here anymore, and she might have made it into the video. I can't really help that. Small room. Cat's gonna do cat things. I hope she wasn't too annoying. And I think with that, I think I've gone on long enough. So yeah, kind of a long video. The Star Wars ships take forever to draw, so only one picture this time around. Well, two pictures, but it's all the same. It's just different. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go now.